Hello, this is Now Tell Us. I'm your host, Anthony Morore. And this is where we come to hear people tell us stories. It's where people come to educate us. Some people come to share an interesting topic that they may be having. And today we have a journey from broken to beautiful. And we have a guest who is going to tell us a story that is going to be inspiring to you. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere. And I'm not going to take one more minute. I'm just going to invite the guest to the show right now. And this is Linda Bjork. Welcome to the show, Linda.
Oh, thank you, Anthony. I'm so happy to be here visiting with you today.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you here. And we're just going to learn of how to come from brokenness into beauty. And because this is what you share with us.
Isn't it wonderful to know
Yeah.
that if we are broken, we don't
Mhm.
have to stay that way?
Mhm.
Because I think all of us are broken to some point or other. And for me, I was very broken. In fact, I was broken and then I was crushed. And so I would love to share kind of this story. And one thing about broken to beautiful is, Anthony, maybe you're familiar with the Japanese art form called kintsugi. And
Yeah.
it's where they take pottery and break it and then
Mhm.
they reassemble it using this mixture of gold dust and lacquer. And it creates something that is beautiful and
Mhm.
unique. And it's actually stronger than it was before it was broken, which is really cool that we can actually be better than we were before we were broken. So for
Wow.
me, growing up, oh my goodness, I had wonderful parents, great family. But
Mhm.
then when I was 6 years old, my mother experienced a trauma in her life.
Mhm.
And even though she was a wonderful person, this put her in survival mode. And she absolutely blocked me out. And I became invisible. And I
Mm.
didn't understand that this was something that she was dealing with. In my little 6-year-old mind, what I thought is, I have done something very bad. I
Okay.
There's something wrong with me
Mhm.
because my mother no longer loves me or cares about me. And so I must not be lovable. And
Mm.
I thought, I'm not good enough. I don't count. I don't matter. I'm not important. And that is the belief system that I locked into my brain and carried with me through my life. I felt broken, but we can still function when we're broken, and we can
Mhm.
really do a pretty good job of trying to hide that and
Mhm.
not let people know. It's like, man, if you really knew me, Anthony, you would know that I'm not lovable and I'm not good enough, but I'm going to pretend so that you'll maybe hopefully like me. And
Yeah.
so that's a kind of a thing that, you just deal with.
Mm.
And then as an adult, I had my chance to have an experience where I had a series of just traumas and horrible things that just crushed me and put
Mhm.
me into that survival state. And I was crushed. I could barely function. I struggled. I fell into depression, and it was like falling into a deep, dark hole. And it
Mhm.
was so deep and dark that there were no windows and there were no doors and there was no way out. And it
Okay.
was so dark that no hope or sunlight or happiness could reach me. And I
Mm.
felt totally and completely alone and isolated and stuck. And I
Uh,
also struggled with social anxiety at the time where I felt like my comfort zone, that we have,
mhm.
absolutely collapsed. And I didn't feel safe, not anywhere and not with anyone. And I thought, well, this is the new reality. This is as good as it gets.
Mhm.
And here we are. So I'm
Okay.
in this awful spot, but
Yeah.
I was really good at masking. I mean,
Mhm.
I had a lot of experience of trying to hide from people the fact that I was actually unlovable and not good enough. So, it wasn't that hard of a change to now pretend, okay, now you don't see my sadness, you don't see my hopelessness, you don't see my misery, and I'm just going to pretend that everything is okay.
Mm.
And I was in that place for about 5 years, and
Mhm.
it's not constant, it kind of ebbs and flows a little bit, but almost no one knew. Almost
Mhm.
no one knew.
Mm-hmm.
And then about this time, my sister, who was training at that time to become a life coach, she was preparing this women's retreat and she had reserved this condo in the mountains and she was going to invite a group of women to come and to, learn how to be happy and live fulfilled and all this wonderful stuff. And she invited me to come and she had no idea what I was going through. And I thought, no way.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. I do not want to go because, first of all, I was struggling with being around people and I didn't think I could handle being around other people for 3 days and three
Mm-hmm.
nights. It's like, no, I need to escape. And the other thing is, remember, I was stuck with no doors and no windows. There was
Okay.
nothing she could do to help me. I was
Yeah.
stuck. It was pointless. It was absolutely pointless to go, absolutely pointless to, do whatever. So I thought, I don't want to do this. But the idea would not leave my mind. And so I thought, oh, okay, I guess this is something I need to do. And so I gathered my courage together and I went.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad that I did because, Anthony, it is like my sister lowered a ladder down into my deep, dark hole.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
she showed me a way to climb out. And it was a ladder, not an elevator where you just press a button and voila, I feel fantastic. It
Yeah.
took effort and it took time. And sometimes it was really hard, but it worked. And I have learned through my experiences that healing is not like flipping on a light switch where all of a sudden everything is all better.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like a sunrise where the changes from moment to moment might be small and even imperceptible, but it does come and it is beautiful and it is better than it was before I went through this. Because
Mm-hmm.
in this process of being broken, of feeling like I'm not good enough, I'm not important, nobody wants to listen to me, nobody cares,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing, that I thought, oh, I can deal with that, to a place of, I cannot deal with this. But my being crushed and healing from that also healed my brokenness. And
Mm-hmm.
so now not only am I happy and I am delighted to be visiting with you instead of being terrified to talking to you,
Mm-hmm.
but I also feel like I have value and I have worth and I'm truly joyful. So it ended up being kind of a blessing in disguise to go through that. But
Mm-hmm.
because I have experienced this, it is now my passion to offer this ladder of hope for healing to anyone who will listen and recognize that we don't have to stay stuck. And so that is why I do what I do, my books, my nonprofit, and my podcast.
And that's beautiful. That's great. Thank you for such an intro. And if we may ask, maybe starting from the start, where are you from? I mean, where were you born and where were you growing? And
Oh, I'm in the United States. I
okay,
am in the Intermountain West, and I
mhm.
am in the state of Utah.
Okay, that's beautiful. Is Utah where I think you have mountains that you mentioned of?
We do.
Uh-huh. Okay, where you went for the retreat, and it's good that you point out to the fact that at some point you were in that deep place where you thought that there was no way out. Don't we all find ourselves in such a place where we don't know how to get out, where to go from here? And everybody who's listening, this is something that you mentioned, that we all have our own deep down holes. I don't. It may not. It may be different from yours, and his may be different from mine. But then we all find ourselves in that place. So it's good that you share your story.
It's so true that even though our experiences are totally different, like your experiences are going to be different from mine, and
Mm,
different people who are listening are going to have different stories and different challenges and different problems that they have gone through or overcome. But those feelings and those emotions are very similar and relatable. And
mhm,
so when we see one person be able to climb out of that dark hole, then
mhm,
it gives us that little bit of hope. Because when I was in that dark place, I thought, there's no way out. there's no way out. And to
Mhm.
see, oh, there is a way to come out and there is a way to be free and to be happy and to be whole, then hopefully someone who is in their dark place gets that little glimmer of hope that really there is a way out for me too. Can I get out? And the answer is yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. And Kathy Kabasia agrees. Yeah, we all do. We all find ourselves in that deep place. Thank you. And for everyone else who's watching or listening, we thank you for being here with us. We are on Now Tell Us, and our guest today is Linda Bjork, telling us a journey from broken to beautiful. And if I may ask, because you mentioned about your mother when you were growing up, and you being blocked out of her life, and then some other experiences growing in life that got you into that place. Could you be willing maybe to share some of the stories that? Uh,
Oh, some of the things that I
Mhm.
have gone through. Ooh, yeah, isn't it fun to know some of the details? Now, in sharing some of the things that I went through, you'll have to remember that this is a tip of an iceberg
Yes.
because, some of the things that we experience in life, we can share and we can talk about. And there are
Mhm.
actually some things in our lives that really aren't appropriate to share because by doing so, it hurts someone else. And
Mm.
so I will be happy to share some of the things that I've endured. One of the things is I had my teeth wired shut for 6 weeks while my broken jaw was recovering. During that time, I was only able to, I couldn't speak and I couldn't eat. The only thing I could get was sustenance through a straw. My husband is a pilot, and we were flying in a small little uh, experimental airplane, and the engine blew up. It literally blew a rod. It threw smoke was pouring out of the cowl. The plane was shaking so bad I thought it was going to fall apart. Oil was oozing at my feet, and I thought, okay, well, I guess this is the end. And we were able to land the plane on a frontage road. We couldn't make it back to the runway, and we were shaken pretty bad. And my husband went off to get a truck and a trailer to take the plane away, and I stayed and talked to the police. And I was trying to get my heart calm and talking to the police officer and make fun, just light of things. I said, "Hey, so is this the first time you've picked up a plane off the side of the road?" And he said, "No, but it is the first time I've seen survivors." And I thought, oh, that did not help me calm down at all. So that's another thing. And I've also, I've had a beautiful daughter who had to have some outpatient surgery. It was something small and simple, but we they took care of the thing, and it was to help with some female issues she was having. And I brought her home, and the doctor had told me, a little bit of bleeding is normal. Don't worry, just let her rest and keep an eye on her and watch for blood clots and infection. So I put her to bed, and then I, tiptoe in every half hour or so, and after a few hours of what looked like she was sleeping peacefully, she texted me, and I'm in the kitchen. She's in her room, and she said, "Mom, will you come to my room? I need to show you something." And so I walked in, and I said, "Hey, you're awake. How are you feeling?" And she didn't answer me with words, Anthony. She threw off the covers, and she was soaked in blood from her chest all the way to her feet. And I can't even find words to describe the panic and the terror that I felt. And guilt, horrible guilt, because I was there the whole time and I didn't know that my daughter was bleeding to death under my nose. And we rushed her to the emergency room. Sorry. And she was preserved and she was okay eventually. But then I had to come home and strip the sheets and the blankets off her bed and wash them and see the water fill up, and it felt like blood. It was in a bloodbath, and it was awful, indescribably awful. I have also had the experience of arriving at the scene of a motorcycle accident in time to see my son's broken body lying in the middle of an intersection, surrounded by flashing lights and emergency personnel. And he was broken, and he didn't die, fortunately, but he had to relearn how to walk. He had to have multiple surgeries, and he's had issues that will really carry with him for the rest of his life. I have also been awoken in the middle of the night to know that my beautiful 9-month-old grandson had had a seizure and that they had life flighted him to Primary Children's Hospital, and they did not expect him to make it through the night. He has hydrocephalus. They did an emergency surgery where they drilled a hole into his head to try to relieve the pressure, followed by a very delicate brain surgery where they gave us a 30% chance of survival to clean that out. And his life was preserved, but he does have brain damage that affects his body to this day. I also have another beautiful 5-month-old grandchild who was diagnosed with cancer at age 5 months. So when we talk about different experiences that we have in our lives, our experiences are different, but I don't know anyone who is not spared having something hard. And you know, Anthony, it's interesting that even going through the experiences that I did of being in that dark place and feeling hopeless and feeling unsafe, and being able to come to a place where I can laugh and smile and have joy and be able to be a light, that doesn't mean that problems don't stop. And it doesn't mean that other hard things don't come. And so, what we want to do is to not only heal and to be resilient, but to be continually feeding ourselves with light and with happiness and with joy, so that when those hard times come, we don't have to dip so far. It doesn't mean we're never going to have a bad day. It doesn't mean we're never going to hurt. It doesn't mean I'm never going to cry. But it does mean that I can get through it and get back up, and that it's going to be okay, even if we don't know what okay looks like.
Mm, that's a lot. That's a lot. And Kathy says that she's so sorry that you had to deal with so much. And
Thank you, Kathy.
the good part that we see in you is that you're smiling, that you're joyful. We didn't expect what we've just experienced in the last 2 minutes when we started the episode, because
I know, right?
you have the energy and you keep going. And that's why she says you are a brave lady and also strong. And we thank you for that. And I like the fact where you mentioned that it's a point where you had no hope of a tomorrow, and then someone came and lowered a ladder for you, your sister. And in life, this is what I'm imagining, that we make it through the help of someone else. I mean, if you have someone that you can lean on, someone who can stretch a hand for you to hold and come out of your deep position, those are the people that are going to make us hopeful for another day. Now, I'm glad that you had your sister. But the bigger joy that I have right now that we are speaking to you is that we have you to reach out to someone out there who is in that deep hole. And it's one thing for someone from out of the blue to reach out to you, and it's another thing for someone who's been there inside that hole to reach out a hand for you to climb up. Now, we are glad that you have the experience, and so you understand whatever someone else out there is going through. So thank you very much for coming out and wanting to reach to other people out there.
Oh, thank
Thank
you, Anthony. And you brought out so many wonderful, wonderful points.
you.
One is that I had someone reach out to me, and
Mm,
we really can't, I don't think you can get out of depression by yourself. I
mm,
really think it requires some help, it requires somebody. But she couldn't fix me.
mm,
I still had to do the work. So this took someone reaching out, but it also takes someone accepting that invitation and being able to do something with it. And I like to say that every journey begins with hope,
yeah.
using hope as an acronym, and that H stands for hunger, that
Okay.
we have to have a hunger to change.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a desire. And people think, well, nobody wants to be miserable. Everybody wants to be happy. Of course, they have a desire, but it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
That desire has to reach a tipping point. And the tipping point is when we want to change
Mm-hmm.
more than we want to stay the same. And that is important because we cannot heal without our consent.
Yeah.
So the H is for hunger. The
Mm-hmm.
O stands for openness. Now, when I was struggling with depression and anxiety in this dark place, I was rolled just tight, 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 like a little armadillo in its shell,
Mm-hmm.
because that they do that to protect themselves. And that's what I was doing. I'm in survival mode. I'm just trying to survive. But we can't heal that way. We have to be able to relax and open up a little bit. And for me, one of the first steps of opening was admitting to another person that I was not in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to my sister and I said, I kind of want to come to your thing, but I'm scared. I'm not in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me, I mean, it sounds like a simple sentence, but it took so much courage because I had been hiding, 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 hiding. And so when I said this, her response was, really? I'm sorry to hear you're having a hard time. I never would have known. You always look like you have everything all together.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand, because people thought I had it all together when I was actually miserable inside. But now I'm genuinely happy and I love it. And
Mm-hmm.
her little conversation, that little bit of me opening up and then her opening up, I learned a couple things. I learned that I was not alone. She said she had felt that way too. And I thought, really? I thought I was the only person. When you're in that place, it feels like I am the only person in the world who has ever felt this miserable in my whole life. And it was, oh, I'm not alone. And then she said, but now I'm genuinely happy. And I thought, really? And that gave me just that little sliver of hope that maybe she would have something that could help me. And so from tight, 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 tight to open, and it's not tight, tight, tight to arms open wide. It's tight, tight, tight to just a sliver of open, just a little bit of we need to be open to change. We
Mm-hmm.
need to be open to even acknowledging that we're in a hard place, but we have to be open. The next part is P. And the P stands for positive expectation. And
Mm-hmm.
positive expectation means we are expecting a positive outcome. And that matters because we're not going to put in any work or any effort or any trust or hope in something if we don't think it's going to do any good.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to recognize, to go from a place of worry and fear to a place of hope, that is the direction we want to go. And it doesn't start again with from being completely hopeless to being, I know everything's going to be awesome, just a
Yeah.
little bit, just open a little bit. And then the E stands for empowerment. When we are in this place of maybe victim mentality or struggling with anxiety and feeling fearful or depression or any of these things, we feel helpless. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm stuck in a dark pit. I'm stuck. There's no way I can get out. There's nothing I can do about it. It just is what it is. But to realize that we have the power to make a change, to make a difference, to be able to work toward healing and hope and to be becoming better and more joyful. And that is so important to recognize. We're not just like some paper bag floating in the wind.
Mm-hmm.
We have power to do something about it. And to get that power is a combination of two simple things: learning and doing. And so we have to learn that there's something that we can do. And that's awesome, but it's not enough. We have to do those things.
Mm. Knowledge alone is enough. You've got to be active. You've got to put that knowledge into action. That's when it's going to be productive. And I like the fact that I mean the idea. And you talk about the hunger and the openness. That's the most sensitive area, I think, of this hope acronym, because many of us are living in denial. We don't want to accept I'm going through a problem, I'm going through a challenge, but I don't want to be open to someone else. uh, am I putting myself into a place of discomfort? Am I putting myself at a risk of being discriminated, being laughed at? Maybe that could be the one that is making someone deny the fact that yes, you need help and you need to be open and stretch out your hand to be reached to.
I agree. That
Mm-hmm.
is a very, very hard and scary part because we have to then be a little bit vulnerable. And if you remember, I grew up my whole life feeling like I am unlovable. I
Mm-hmm.
am unimportant. I do not matter. No one cares. No one wants to listen. And so I put up this little mask, this facade of, I'm going to pretend that I'm likable because it hurts too much to think that everybody doesn't like me.
Mm-hmm.
And so we create this thing. And as we create this shell and this mask, what we're afraid of is if someone knows the real us, they're going to find out. Oh, Anthony's going to find out that I'm really unlovable. So here's what is amazing, but unfortunately, it takes a process of peeling this layer and peeling this layer. Is the truth is that we are wonderful. We are good enough. We are magnificent. We are glorious. We are divine.
Mm-hmm.
But we learn these messages that you're not good enough and you're not this and you're not that and you're not whatever, and we believe that one. Somehow that one's easier to believe than to believe that we are good enough, just inherently good enough. I don't have to do anything to be good enough. I
Mm-hmm.
am. And so it's scary. It's so scary. I understand that it's so scary to open up because we're afraid someone's going to find out the real us is not good enough. But that's not the real us. That's the imposter.
Mm-hmm.
When we can get through that, what we think is the real us, and go further back into the real us, then we'll find that, oh, it is good. It is very good.
Mm.
So I do understand that that is scary and hard, but I also know that it's worth it.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding us that it's a journey. It's not a one day thing. It's not
Nope.
today that you tell me where you are, and tomorrow you're in a different position. No, it's a step at a time, a day at a time, and it's through relationships, as we spoke, as you tell us, is about having someone get you along. I mean, take the journey along with you every step of the way. So thank you. And I think we've got so much to cover, but then this is the reason why I would ask someone to follow up with you in order to get to learn more and maybe get some tools that they can use in their journey. And because I know you've got some tools that someone can use to. Uh,
Yes. Do we have time? Can I share some today, Anthony, or do I have to tell him where to go? Or can I
Mm,
share a
if
couple
you-
and then say, this is where to
how are
go?
you feeling? Maybe you can share with us. Share with us, and then
Yes,
we can
please.
follow
So
up.
if I can share,
Mhm.
just because I know for me, when I'm in that dark place and feeling stuck, if it's something that's overwhelming, like don't give me a lot to do because I don't think I can do anything. It just needs to be small and simple. And so I have a 5-minute morning routine that is so packed with useful tools to help us to be able to be happy and to feel joyful and to have a better day. And it is just MMWW. It is music, movement, words, and water. And I'll quickly explain what to do and then I'll explain why it works. So the first part of music is you just pick a song, something that you love, something that makes you feel good, probably something that makes you want to get up and dance or sing along.
Mhm.
That is your timer. Most songs last between 3 and 4 minutes, so it's not very long. During the time that the music is playing, you're going to move your body. And this can be either traditional exercises like sit ups and push ups and jumping jacks, or it can be stretches, or it can be yoga or Tai Chi or shadow boxing, or even just dance and just have fun with it. Okay, so that's your music and your movement. Then, when the song is done, you grab a notebook and a pen and you write 5 things that you're grateful for. That
Mhm.
is the words. The first W is just some words. And then the last W is to drink a bottle of water.
Water.
So MMWW, music, movement, words, and water. And those 4 things can be done in 5 minutes, and it has so many positive benefits. So let me go back to music here, real quick. There has been shown from research that music can affect the way that we feel more than anything else that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so uh, if we're feeling stressed out, listening to something calming can actually help us to calm down. Or if we're struggling, I don't want to get out of bed, I don't have any motivation, I can't do this, then being able to listen to positive, fun, bouncy, upbeat music can literally help us to be able to get going. And then research also shows that our brain waves tend to synchronize somewhat to the beat of the music. So it literally can help jumpstart our brain and get going in the day, which is so cool. And then the next part of movement helps to increase our energy. So if we're feeling like, oh, I don't have any energy and I can't get up and I can't face today, if we move a little bit, it helps us to be able to have that energy that we need. And also, any form of exercise helps us to reduce our stress, and it helps to relax our muscle tension. It helps to reduce the levels of cortisol, that stress hormone in our body. It helps to increase the level of endorphins, those feel good chemicals that we have in our brains. And so, all of these things help us to feel better. And then the next thing about words and writing in that little gratitude journal, there has been so much research done on gratitude and how it affects our brain and how it affects our minds. And it's just so amazing because one of the things that they did is they've done fMRI scanners to see if we're in a state of gratitude, how does that affect our mind? And they find that it stimulates the prefrontal cortex area of the brain, which
Mm-hmm.
is where we have our conscious thought and our decision making. And this helps us to be able to be better able to act rather than to react to the situations that happen. It helps us to be able to make better decisions. It helps us to be able to function better. It helps us to be able to be better in the present moment and to be able to work on our conscious and not just acting on our subconscious, which is really cool. Another thing is that they've done research about gratitude and how it affects the way that we feel and how it affects depression and anxiety. And so they took a group of people who were struggling with severe depression
Mm-hmm.
and they said, okay, we're going to try something. I just want you to write 3 things that went well today, 3 things you're grateful for every day, and we'll see if it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Came back 15 days later, they found that 94% of participants had a noticeable improvement in the way that they felt. They had gone from severely depressed to either moderately or mildly depressed. So it didn't solve all of their problems and make everything go away, but it helped put them in a better place so that they could solve their problems. And that was only 15 days, which is so amazing. So if we keep this going, and again, it's not like if I did it once, all of a sudden, hey, I feel great.
Yeah.
It's that small, simple thing that we do every day. And then the last thing is drinking water. Water is one of the most overlooked, underutilized tools that we have to help with our physical, mental, and emotional well being. It
Mm-hmm.
helps, obviously, our brain functions better when we have water. That research shows we have about 73% of our brain is water. And so, if we are dehydrated as little as 1%, it starts to affect brain function and mood. We don't feel as good. So, if we drink our water and we keep our brain hydrated, we keep our bodies hydrated, and we're moving, all these things put together. And what's so cool is you can have all the power of all of those tools in 5 minutes. So,
Right.
you get up, you just do this fun little thing. And while you're doing it, you realize, I'm doing all these awesome things for myself. And then you find that you're feeling better, you physically feel better mentally and emotionally. And it's like, I can handle this day. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just so wonderful. So I run a nonprofit. It's called Hope for Healing. And the website is hopeforhealingfoundation.org. And we have a little video on the 5 minute morning routine. And we also have a download so that you can keep track of how you're doing. And we have so many free resources and free things that you can download because I want to offer a ladder to anybody who feels stuck. So,
Yeah, thank you very much for that. So, for those who are listening, those who are watching, remember to go to www.hopeforhealingfoundation.org and you'll get all the tools that she's talked about. And I know you do much more than just what you've done. Please, can you highlight to us several of the things that you do? What are people going to expect when they follow up with you?
Oh, what are you going to expect when you follow up with me? Well, I would say, first of all, is to enjoy going to the hopeforhealingfoundation.org.
Mhm,
We have lots of free resources to help increase happiness, to help build confidence, to help build self esteem, to help us to be able to manage stress, to help be able to overcome feelings of depression and anxiety. I also am an author and I have written several books. Many of them are available to download for free on the Hope for Healing website. And so I have one that's called Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, which chronicles my journey and that experience. And I've had really positive feedback from people who have said, I felt like I was reading my story. I felt like you were in my head. How did you know that that's how I felt? And it's been very rewarding to be able to connect with people
mhm,
because, like I say, even though our experiences are different, those feelings, those emotions, they are the same. And to realize she's felt that way, she gets it, and she's okay. And that means I can be okay.
mhm,
And that is what we're all about. And so, in addition to that, I am a podcast host like yourself. My podcast is called Linda's Corner, and you can find me at Linda's Corner Podcast wherever you find podcasts. And we also have a website for that. It's lindascornerpodcast.com.
mhm.
And so, let's see that and that. So, books, author, nonprofit, that's the main things. And then my personal life, I am a wife and a mom and a grandma. So, life is good.
Whoa, you don't look like a grandma.
Oh,
Not
thank
at
you.
all. Not at all. So, for those who are listening, I remind you to go and connect with Linda from Hope for Healing foundation.org. You can get to all the other areas that she's mentioned. And yet again, I want to thank all the listeners or the viewers. And I'll read one of the comments from John who says, thank you, Linda, for your happiness tips. Sadness and loneliness comes to each one of us at different times. So he's
Very true.
appreciative of the tips that you've just given. Thank you very much, Linda. We thank you very much
Thank you,
for
Anthony.
taking your time and being on this podcast and sharing everything that you've done.
Thank you.
Yeah, and before you go, as always, we've got to leave us with a few words that we will always remember. It's your time, Linda.
All right. I invite everyone who is listening to be the kind of person who is kind to yourself.
That's simple and straightforward. Be kind to yourself. And that marks the end of this episode of today of Now Tell Us. I've been your host, Anthony Morore, and our guest today was Linda Bjork, and we are saying bye for now. Bye. Be kind to yourself. Remember that. That's Linda's words. Bye.